Hi, this is Ariana Simpa from Kaimuki High School here at the Youth Capital Commentary along with Senator Rhodes. Okay. So, how is the energy for today?
Oh, it's great. I mean, we haven't had a real opening day celebration, and I guess 2020 was the last time that it was sort of normal. And yeah, so there's a lot of energy in the building that I haven't felt in a long time.
Over the pandemic, there has been like a lot of talk on media about it. Do you think that there really is like an influence when it comes to social media and like people's awareness about it? Like how does that actually influence? And like is there like a change over time before social media and while it's trending on social media?
Yeah, I think there is a change, and it does affect how people think about the environment, both good and bad. I mean, there's a lot of stuff on the internet and social media that's just nonsense. All this stuff about global warming's not happening. Well, it's just nonsense. It's happening. So I think social media, there was always buzz even before social media and the press and word of mouth and mailings, and there's all kinds of different ways to influence people. I think social media makes it happen faster.
Yeah.
It's just like bam, it's right there. And people start sharing, stories or whatever. So yeah, it definitely affects where people are on what they think should be done about global warming and the environment.
Is there any way to tell um, the effect of performative activism from the actual activism coming from the social media craze of like yeah you said like it happens in your fingertips and like the effect of that there's performative activism and can you tell like the difference of that?
It's always hard to tell like where an idea came from and why it ended up the way it ended up. I would say it's an important factor, but not the only one. And social media is not the only factor, but it's an important one. But all the other stuff counts too, and it all sort of mingles together and influences each other, and then you end up with whatever sort of the conventional wisdom is eventually.
So, drifting away from that topic,
Yeah.
let's talk about the situation here in Hawaii. So, for the 2023 legislative session, is there any points of improvement when it comes to both housing and the environment?
Well, it's certainly something that's on the radar for a lot of people here. Senate President talked about it on the floor today about doing some kind of green fee. Personally, I think we need to go farther than that. I think we need a carbon tax, which
Sure.
would act like a green fee in many respects. Housing is, it's always an issue. We've had lots of wins, but it's still there just isn't enough affordable housing. And the private sector has demonstrated over the course of decades that they're not interested in building affordable housing, at least not enough of it, because they can make more money doing luxury housing for out of state, out of country investors. And so we're all, those of us who just make a regular income, we're competing with people who make $1 million a year. And that's really hard to overcome. But yes, that's definitely on the radar. And it's been a focal point for me for years. And my next door neighbor here is Senator Chang, who's chair of the housing committee. He's done a lot on that too. So we're trying, and we know how hard. I mean, we know.
Yeah.
I mean, there are members of the legislature who have had to live at home for years after they were elected to office because the district they represented was so expensive to live in they couldn't afford an apartment on their own salary. So yeah, so we know, and we're doing the best we can, but it's a difficult problem.
Yeah. Um, Aside from like the hi- rising prices, do you think there's any other like factors that contribute to not a lot of wins happening in that sector?
Well, I think there are quite a few wins. I mean, if you look at the a number of affordable housing units that have been built in the last few years, they're going up. I mean, there's a building that I can see from Mile and I that's a 17-story senior affordable housing, and that and I got money for the School Street HPA, Hawaii Public Housing Authority School Street project, and so that's moving forward. So things are happening. It's just not enough. We need to scale it up and do more.
There is a problem. Like, could you think of any other factor, like aside from the difficulty to combat it?
Well, it's partly a function of just not having very much land, and we have to keep quite a lot of Oahu without any housing on it because we need the water, right? If you build houses all along the top of the ridges, then that would cut down on the rainfall because the trees aren't there to pick up the rain, and so if you look at the actual amount of land that we can build on, it's small, so that hurts. But the outside competition, if you lived in relatively the same size city like Indianapolis, Indiana, housing prices just aren't anywhere near as high there because you don't have people wanting to come and stay there during the winter, or they don't want a second house in Indianapolis. I'm from Indiana, or I grew up in Indiana, and Indiana's fine, but it doesn't have the same kind of draw that Hawaii does. So you don't get all, hundreds and thousands of other people coming in from the outside competing with locals for housing.
Oh yeah.
And so the prices consequently are lower. And they have lots of room. So if they want to keep building, they shouldn't. They should build up, but it's on a fairly flat area, and they can just keep going out. And we don't really have that option.
Yeah, and because of how small the island is.
Yeah.
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 And then even like on the Hawaii Island where there's a lot more space, but then if you look at, you're not going to build houses on Mauna Loa while it's erupting. Well, I guess some people did, but then you saw what happened later.
Yeah.
But that's the sad part. That was like the place you could buy an affordable house, and so people were willing to risk building on a volcano field that has only been cool for 20 years, and then you have another eruption. And I don't know how many people lost their houses about that, but quite a few, I think.
So can I ask, since the locals here in Hawaii, I can see they're very protective of their environment. Do you think that taking in more of their advice would help preserve our natural resources here on Oahu and other islands?
Yeah, I think it would. I mean, I think it's the Hawaiians were able to live here for a very long time in balance with nature, and there were quite a few of them. It wasn't like it was a tiny population.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously things have changed in terms of technology and the amount of pollution that common devices that we use, like cars, produce that they didn't have to deal with, 800 years ago. But there's definitely stuff to be learned about, not wearing out the land and sort of living in harmony with it to the extent that you don't destroy it. And we're not right now. The human race is not. I mean, we're destroying the planet, and it's happening really fast. I mean, we got 10 years left before we've gone over the 1.5 Celsius cliff.
What's his name?
Well, that's John Kerry.
John Kerry.
It
So
was-
how was your experience with him and everything?
Well, I was an intern, so.
Oh.
So it's a big office. He was in the U.S. Senate at the time, and it's a much bigger office, right? So he represented Massachusetts, which is a pretty good sized state. What that means is that the really big states like California, they have huge staffs. They have 60, 70 people. When he was from Massachusetts, he had 40. And the first day that I was working there as an intern, he came down to the intern. There was this string of suites, and he came all the way from his end down to our end. Then I got to meet him, and I thought, well, this is going to be really cool. I'm going to get to see the senator every day. I didn't see him again for 3 months.
Oh. Do you think that internship helped you with what you do now?
Well, totally. It got me. They had me answering letters to constituents because back then there wasn't email, so then we'd get letters and we'd respond, and I'd draft the letters, and that was a totally useful learning experience. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's all for today. Thank
Okay.
you so much for your time.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
This is Ariana Simpa from Kaimuki High School. Now, not leaving. Don't worry, we'll still be here from the Youth Capital Commentary.
Aloha everybody, my name is Julian Fojas from the 21st Legion, aka Kaimuki High School, and I'm here with Representative Andrew Garrett. So thank you so much for giving your time today.
Sure, my pleasure.
So I'm just gonna ask you a few questions about, a little bit of your background and just your general, what you do here. So first of all, how long have you been in office for?
So actually I was recently elected in November of this past election cycle, but I was officially sworn in today, so about 2 hours now. I've been on the job.
Wow, that has to be super nerve-wracking for you. That's So with being in office, what do you hope to? Is there any issues that you hope to like resolve or push for?
Sure, there's quite a few. I think COVID, really exposed a lot of the structural inequities in our society. And as a parent, I have two daughters, and I'm really concerned about where our society is headed, and the fact that we do see this out migration of students or young people having to leave the islands to pursue opportunity elsewhere. So I'm hoping we can address a lot of these things. We talk about diversifying our economy, building affordable housing, protecting our INA. These are all things I want to continue to work on to make sure that your generation can continue to call Hawaii home.
Yeah. Obviously, I was speaking to other people today, some senators and people talking about housing. Housing is one of the things that is occurring in our island. So, what is your take on that? What do you think about that?
No, we definitely have to build more affordable housing. That's it's tough in Hawaii because we have a finite supply of land. We're obviously living on an island.
Yeah.
We do have to figure out ways to try to make home ownership more attainable. But importantly, we have to get roofs over people's heads. So we have to look at raising the stock of affordable housing as well too. But again, trying to make sure that people that want to stay here, that they can have well-paying jobs, so one day they can own their own home here.
With COVID, I know it's slowly coming to an end. 2023 marks the third year of COVID.
Yes.
What is your take on COVID and how we adjust to, getting back to a normalcy of life?
Right. No, that's
Yeah.
a great question. We do see it does seem like we're coming out of the pandemic finally.
Yeah.
Vaccines are readily available. I encourage those people who haven't gotten vaccinated to please do so. It's not quite over just yet with different surges with variants and whatnot. But it is great to see. Today opening day was the first time in 3 years where it was completely open. We had guests on the floor, live entertainment, which was really exciting. But hopefully, we can just learn from the lessons from the last couple of years and just apply it going forward to make sure, again, we address a lot of these issues that COVID exposed in our society.
Getting into office, was there any challenges that you faced, like trying to just get into the election or things you dealt with over the years to try to get in?
Yeah, it's tough. There's really no shortcut when it comes to pursuing elective office. You've got to be willing to put in the work. Really, and locally, that means knocking on doors, getting to know your neighbors,
Yeah.
finding out what's important to them, and trying to tell them, what your ideas are to address some of these issues. But really, no shortcuts. You just got to be willing to work. And I think if candidates are willing to do that, they'll have a good shot.
Awesome. And I guess my last question for you today is, what is one thing that you look forward to in 2023 that you hope to accomplish or achieve?
Right. Yeah. So one of the things I want to focus on this year really is workforce development. And I want to make sure that young people when they graduate from high school or from college that they have good paying jobs waiting for them. So I think it's important that we look at creating these pathways and pipelines to make sure that people, maybe kids who don't want to go to college, maybe it's not right for them for whatever reason, they're able to take classes again in high school, maybe their junior, senior year, or community college, and make sure there's a good paying job for them again.
Awesome.
Good afternoon, or good day, good morning. I'm Mariana Simpa from Kaimaki High School here at the Youth Capital Commentary, along with...
Aloha, thank you so much for joining me, Ariana. Yes, my name is Adrian Tam. I'm the representative for House District 24, Waikiki.
So, what do you think about the energy that we have here today?
The energy is just electric. We have a lot of new people joining the House. I think it's like one of the biggest freshman classes that we've ever had. And I'm just looking forward to all the enthusiasm and the ideas that they're going to bring. And what's noticeable is that a lot of them are very young too. So it's good to see a lot of young people getting involved. Some have never gotten involved before. And, it just brings me a lot of hope for what the future's going to hold,
Have you met anyone notable or that stick to you throughout this day?
I think someone that has stuck to me is one of the new freshmen. His name is Darius Keela. He is one of the youngest one. He's just very energetic. He's, authentic, and someone that I think that everyone should look to in the future who's going to do a lot of big things.
Cool. So, now let's talk about Waikiki. So, we can't deny the fact there has been quite a lot of crimes, or yeah. Do you still support the increase of policing in Waikiki?
I've always said that we need community policing. We need police officers working with our neighbors to, break down that barrier that's always there and, bring the police in to be invested into Waikiki and bring our neighborhood to be invested into Waikiki. I've often supported, police patrols and working with city officials to make sure that, places are safe because, oftentimes people forget that, Waikiki's a neighborhood. We have a lot of residents. Our kupuna, our young children, our families are there. It's not just a tourism destination. And now it's just time for us to really move forward and make sure that, we make this district comfortable for not only the visitors, but the residents as well.
Then how do you plan on doing so? Do you have any special agenda to try to ensure the safety in Waikiki and like the livability in that area?
So one of the things that we've often seen is recidivism rate. People would go out of prison and into prison and go out of prison and back into prison. It's always the same person. And one determining factor is that they aren't able to get hired after they serve their time because they used to be in prison. So I'm introducing a bill that would create a training program in our prison system to train inmates that are scheduled to be released in the area of social work and outreach so that they can start, getting a job in IHS, HGRC, Project Vision, many of these social outreach companies out there or organizations out there that are looking to hire people because there is a huge shortage of outreach workers and social workers. And in order for us to really address some of these problems, we need to start right there. I believe that this will do a lot of great things. First, it'll give them a job and hope that they can be part of society. It'll help ease the burden on this problem, and we actually might improve because some of these people that are going to be hired that are in the prison system right now probably would not have slipped through the cracks and ended up in prison had there been good services, good social workers that didn't have so much work that they wouldn't have slipped through the cracks.
Well, I really love the honest input here. So, since we talked about being Swifties the moment before this, what is one song of Taylor Swift's that really applies to the entire situation here? Like, for example, Only the Young, or maybe a comfort song of hers that you would play when you need to be in the headspace.
There is no bad Taylor Swift song, in my opinion. Now, this song is not something that can describe the legislature, but it's an upbeat song that I like to listen to make me energized, to keep up the good work for the people of Hawaii, and that's 22.
Too amazing song. So thank you so much for your time. This is Ariana Simpao of Kaimaki High School wrapping up the Youth Capital commentary. See you on the next one.